Good afternoon. This is Dr. Russell Robinson coming to you live from his home office. I hope you're doing well. We'll be starting our English 1250 Google Hangout session in about the next 5 to 10 minutes. So if you're there, we're looking forward to seeing you in the meantime. If you're not there, I've just sent out an email message to all of you pointing you in the direction of the browser. You can go ahead and see us live and actually shoot me information. I'll be able to add you to the Hangout, and I'll try to add you in momentarily. So give us about another 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll see you shortly.
You should see it when that bell goes on. When I came in this morning, she was sitting outside. She was like, "Do you know somewhere I can go sleep at?" And I was like,
Good
"In your room."
evening.
She's
How are
sitting out there. She made me. I was about to go from her one day. She followed me in each hall when I was passing her attention.
Good evening. I hear a lot of background noise. You can go ahead and squelch that or cut that out. Can you hear me? Ava, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, hi. Is there a way you can go
Hello?
ahead? Hi there, can you hear me?
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Is there a way you can cut out?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be starting in a few minutes, okay? Hi, Morgan. How are you?
Okay, all right.
Hello, Morgan. How are you? Morgan. Morgan, can you hear me? This is Dr. Robinson. Morgan, how are you? This is Dr. Robinson. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? I can see you. Morgan. I think she's shocked that I can see her. Morgan, hi. This is Dr. Robinson. I hope you're doing well. And we have another person who's joining us too. Hello, how are you?
I'm well. Good afternoon.
Good evening, actually. It's more like evening.
Good evening.
We're doing well. Okay. So, first of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. Welcome to another class. We are now going to actually officially get things kicked off. It's about 7:04 on this bright, sunny Sunday evening. I apologize for coming to you all so late in the semester, or at least in the part of the quarter. We basically are in the middle of our session. Welcome again to our class. Let's go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves briefly so we can go ahead and, for the most part, get things started. And as we do that, we will then go over some of the other basics that we have to talk about, and then we'll move into this evening's conversation. Morgan, we'll start with you. All right, we'll start with Elle since she's there. Why don't you start talking? Tell us who you are.
My name is Lynette Bashalta. I've been harassing you with my emails.
I wouldn't say harassing, but you have been sending me a lot of emails. Thank you for those emails, by the way. Tell us about yourself. And please indulge me. I'm dealing with a little bit of a sinus cold right now, but please indulge me. Go ahead.
I'm 22 years old. I'm a double major in music education and jazz studies. I'm a senior at North Carolina Central. I'm currently in the Virgin Islands right now. So this is
lucky you.
This is distance ed.
You are putting distance ed to the extreme. We're glad you could join us. How long are you in the Virgin Islands? Or is it the Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic?
Virgin Islands.
How long are you there for?
Actually until next week.
So you're getting a little vacation in as you're also taking class.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. I saw another person there. Abel, are you there? Abel?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Can you tell us who you are and how you're in the class, and tell us something about yourself.
Well, I'm a junior at North Carolina Central University. I transferred here in fall of 2013, and I transferred here from Durham Technical Community College.
Okay. I'm glad to have you. We have another person who's joined us. Who is this?
Hi, I'm Glenn Davis.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Are you coming to us live from your campus dorm room?
Yes. It's my room. Yes,
your room?
Yes, my room.
Okay. What's your major?
Athletic training.
All right. And your classification?
I'm a rising junior.
Welcome to the ranks of the upperclassmen.
Thank you.
And I have another person Morgan, who has a microphone that's on mute, I'm going to take it off mute if she doesn't speak to us. Morgan, how are you? Morgan. Okay, so I'm not going to eject her, but I wanted to go ahead and talk eventually. Okay, so first of all, welcome to our class. As more of your colleagues get more familiar with the technology using Google Hangout, I promise you these things will be packed up right about now. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and what I plan to do over the course of the next few weeks to get you guys through this course as easy as possible. It's not that difficult of a class, provided you go ahead and do the assignments and keep up with the readings. Pretty much, I've been doing this online now for about the past 2 years, and it's been very interesting, very exciting. Getting familiar with the technology, learning how to manipulate the computer, and learning how to have screen-to-screen chats with students throughout the course of the semester. One of the things you guys will learn about me is that I'm very flexible. I like to try to be as flexible as possible because, again, this is a brand new frontier for all of us. I don't want to allow this class to be an obstacle for any of you. Having said that, one of the main things a lot of folks don't seem to understand with a class, particularly like this, is that it really requires an independent, entrepreneurial nature. It means that you're going to have to really be on your own, follow the readings, be in contact with me as much as possible, and I'll do my best to return emails and phone calls and whatever else you have, smoke signals, be it, get back to you within 48 hours if I can. So let's first of all get some basic housekeeping out of the way. How many of you were able to get your assignments into me today?
I got the introduction of speech and the about me into. I'm still trying to find. I saw like the email or the inquiry with how we like uploaded different assignments. I know posting like the discussion boards. Do we like make the discussion board posts ourselves up, like the threads ourselves up?
In many cases, the discussion board threads, they're not that difficult. What it is, and again, you need to basically use the YouTube channel that you have as a means of talking or discussing the material that's been read in the chapters. What is also important is that you, as your classmates, they will also need to respond to your YouTube post. So again, that's why I wanted everyone to have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel allows you to speak about what you've read and not necessarily read verbatim what you talked about in the book, but actually make some level of connectivity. What does it mean to you? How do you apply this into the construction of your speech? How do you apply this to your communicative practices throughout the course of your daily living? And again, as you respond or make a post in regards to what you've read, it's a good idea for your colleagues to actually chime in and say, I agree or I don't agree with this, and give us some reasons why. So that's why I wanted to make it as organic as possible. I don't want to necessarily prescribe everything to you. I want you to have an opportunity to take advantage of what it is you've read, what you've learned. Jot down some notes. Ask questions if you don't have it, or ask questions if it doesn't make sense to you. And I think that's one of the most important parts about this class. Because we don't meet every day or even every other day, but really once a week, it's important that you engage the material on your own and you engage your classmates as well. I will chime in and look at some of the things that you have there, but most importantly, it's important that you are doing the reading and keeping up with that. So, for example, discussion board number 2, I think, talked about chapters 1, 2, and 3. Well, what did you learn from chapters 1, 2, and 3? What resonated with you in those chapters? And as that material was important to you, how do you apply that, let's say, to what it is you're doing either in the construction of a speech or even as you communicate with your colleagues or however you communicate? One of the things they talked about, I believe, in chapters 1 and 2, of course, was the history and principles of communication. So I think it's important that you're able to entertain the questions that come out of that chapter, but it's also important that you're able to apply the same things you got out of whatever chapter within the construction of your speeches, within how you communicate. And I really would like to see that in your posts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Good, good. So having said, yes.
So should we do individual posts for each chapter?
Well, as you do the post, and again, a video post, I want you to do a post for the discussion board chapters, i.e., chapters 4, 5, and 6. I expect you to give me a post for those. Chapters 4, 5, and 6. Not every individual one, but actually group them all together.
Okay.
Let us know what you've read, and let us know what it means. That
Okay.
makes sense?
Hmm.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Okay, cool.
Okay.
So,
No, I have more. I have more. Okay. With the about me, I looked on your checklist and I know it said no cursive. I didn't put cursive on my about. I took off the cursive I had, but on one of your examples, the second one has cursive on the headline. So I
and I,
wasn't sure if it was just appropriate for just the headline or did you just mean the body text?
body text, preferably the whole text as well. Again, the one that had the cursive, I allowed that to be there, but there were some points taken off for that.
Okay, well I took off my cursive, so okay.
Other questions?
And okay, yes, with the video for the introduction and speech, I know it said have the about me page in the background.
Mhm.
So I had to use a laptop because I didn't have like a big TV screen, so I didn't know if that was acceptable
I
because
don't
I didn't
see
have
why.
like a
Did you
okay.
flick? Did you take a look at the model of the one who made their presentation? Did you see how they did theirs? Did you look at theirs?
I looked at the only thing I found was the set list. I didn't see the example one.
There was an example that we had actually in the content section of Blackboard. If you looked at that example, you'll actually see that that person used an iPad for theirs.
Oh, that'd be nice.
So if you follow the example in the model, you should not have a problem with that. Okay, one of the
Okay,
things about the introduction speech is that it's really not intended to be something that's intimidating, but it is something that we want to make sure that you do, that you engage all the exercises that are associated with that, i.e. the About Me page, and also that you take time to practice and rehearse so that you don't give us something that is just like slapped together. Because one of the main things that I want students to take out of this course is the art of presentation, how you present the material and how you present yourself is going to speak ahead of you volumes, whether you choose to accept it or not. So that's one of the things that we want to make sure that you understand. In some cases, we had some individuals, when they did their About Me pages, for some reason, I don't know if they got the memo, but we don't want it to look like an Instagram assignment. We really want it to look more so like it's a polished piece of material. And again, that's why I posted the examples again in the content section for you to look at. Now, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's important that you, again, I'm sorry, that you follow up and that you make sure that you're watching Blackboard, looking at the content sections, because the content section will give you examples and give you a model of what I'm expecting to see. And again, those are models. But if you're not going to follow the models, then you're putting yourself pretty much at risk. So we want to make sure that you're doing that to the best of your ability.
yeah, I saw the about me page examples. I just didn't see the intro speech example.
Well, the one was there because I know I placed it in both classes. Are you in my OL3 or OL2?
3.
I posted it up there. So, but again, if you didn't see it, I will go ahead and make sure you see it again. But again, the first speech is not necessarily meant to be one that's going to intimidate you, but really more so to engage you and to also make sure that you have a grasp of the technology. We have quite a few people in the second class, OL2, that submitted their work, and I'm going to evaluate that over the course of this evening. However, I am noticing for some inexplicable reason that we're not getting a lot of people in OL3. Any reason why that's the case?
I don't know. I don't figure. I don't. I'm not too sure. I know I was having trouble at first with the Blackboard because I had gotten removed from school and back in. So I'm just constantly trying to sift through everything.
Okay, because I'm
So
going to go
I'm
ahead and
trying to
post.
stay on task.
All right, because I'm going to go ahead and post an announcement in regards to the class of OL3. I'm very concerned about that, partly due to the fact because, again, one of the things that I also am making sure that I'm sticking to my guns on this is that once we have a total of 4 zeros in the class, I'm going to remove you from the class. And it's not necessarily because I'm being punitive, but I want you to understand that in this class, if you have 4 zeros, your probability of success is going to be really, pretty small. Especially if you're not doing the speeches or the paperwork that's accompanying the speeches. So it's important that all students again, I'm saying this for all the classes across the board. Please make sure you get your work in, because if you have more than 4 zeros, there's no way possible you can pass this course. Especially when you have the speeches. We only have 3 speeches through the entire course of the semester. And the reason that we have 3 speeches is because our class is limited in the time. So it's important that you really make sure that you're conscientious, you're following up on that, and it's stated in the syllabus. It's also stated in the Statement of Understanding. And we also, I say it pretty much in everything that we talk about. Please make sure you get your work in. When we hit that 4th zero, you're pretty much on thin ice.
And then I had a question about like the paperwork for the speeches. If we get them done earlier, do we have the opportunity to email them to you or blackboard them to you for you to review them before?
You can. In fact, I think that's a good idea. If you do that, that would help you immensely. But if you turn in something with literally at the drop-dead deadline, then I'm of the impression as the instructor that you have had no questions and you're satisfied with the quality of your work. Now, if you do turn something in to me ahead of time, and if you send me an email letting me know to look at it, I will look at it. I will not grade it. But I will look at it and I will give you some feedback on that. Wow. The other thing that's important, too, is that, again, I will, provide models for you for the paperwork, i.e., a PowerPoint presentation, which is coming up in your 2nd speech. You will also have an outline model that you will need to adhere to as well. So, again, with all that, the onus is really upon the student to really keep up with the class, look at the models, get them into me in a timely way so that you can make sure that you're on point. Otherwise, you can fall behind, and I don't want to see that happen. I just don't. Other comments or questions? Because if not, I'm going to move on to what we're going to talk about this evening.
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's Bucky.
Lynn, do you have any questions? I've noticed that we had another person just pretty much hit us with a whole lot of things. Do you have any questions or comments you want to add to this?
No, I'm good.
Did you get your stuff into me?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You satisfied with the quality of it?
Yes, I am.
All right, good. Just want to make sure. Now, I've lost 2 people. I hope they come back. I know we have people who may be watching this also live. So, see, I have another person just decided to join us. Okay, so, having said that, I want to go ahead and get into a little bit of chapters 1, 2, and 3 to talk about what the text said. Who wants to initiate the conversation with us? This is where I hear crickets. Don't want to hear crickets. I actually want to hear conversation. Hi there. Who is this?
I'm Lola.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to class. Glad you could join us. Tell us some more about yourself and tell us why you're taking this class and all the other good information we need to know.
My name is Alola Dianalapa, but I go by Lola. I am taking this class because it is an emphasis class for my nursing major. I don't know what else to say.
What's your classification?
I'm going to be a sophomore in August.
Sophomore in August. Okay, very good. We're glad to have you. All right, so what I want to do right now is I want to have a conversation about what you guys have read. So someone get us started. Chapters 1, 2, and 3. Talk to me about what's in the chapters.
Well, in chapter 1, we talked about communication, I believe. Was that chapter about? It talked about intentional and unintentional conversations that people between messenger and sender, who you want to send a message to, how it is perceived and how it is received.
Okay. So talk to me about the notion of encoding and decoding the message. What exactly do we mean by that? Morgan?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to class.
Thank you. I do apologize. I was having some technical difficulties over here.
It happens. I'm glad you could join us. Tell us about yourself and what brings you to our class.
I'm 23. I've been in Cary for about a year and a half. I just recently enrolled to North Carolina Central to get my bachelor's degree. And this is actually one of the classes that I needed to graduate. But so far, from reading the chapters, I have found it pretty interesting. So I'm glad I'm able to be a part of the class.
Elaborate on what you found interesting in chapters 1, 2, or 3.
Mostly in terms of just the way technology affects us now, because we started out, I guess, well, my generation, I'm being 23, we used to talk face to face, and then we got cell phones. I had my first cell phone when I was in the 7th grade, and then it slowly turned into text messaging and emails, and I very rarely talk on the phone anymore. I really prefer to be text or something like that. So just seeing how, like, a different aspect other than my own, because to me that's kind of normal, that's how I've kind of grown up. It's just using the phone and texting all the time. And, I now see the importance of being able to communicate face to face, because you can't always use hide behind technology to communicate with other people.
It's very interesting you make that comment, because we're actually having a class meeting and we're using technology to make that happen. How do you all feel about that?
This is awkward for me. I've never done it before.
Why do you say it's awkward? Why is it awkward?
I've never used Google Hangout. The closest I've ever gotten, time to time, I Skype my sister. Okay. But other than that, I'm not really, I guess, tech savvy when it comes to using these types of things. So it's me getting used to it.
Okay. Now, are you driving and actually trying to have class with us? Because that's dangerous.
I am to
Are you driving now?
Listening.
Are you driving and trying to have class? You're putting yourself at risk. So I don't want you to go ahead and have an accident trying to keep up with us. So either you can park your car or you can go ahead and download this conversation later. I don't want you to put yourself at risk, okay? That's kind of risky, so don't do that. Help it.
Okay. I'm going to go pause.
All right, go park or do it. But don't drive and try to have class. That's dangerous. We don't want you drinking and driving. We certainly don't want you to have an accident and have class and drive. That's kind of like, woof. So anyway, amazing what you can do with technology these days, right? So the book talked about misconceptions about communication. It said myth number 1, communication is a cure-all. Myth number 2, quantity means quality. Myth number 3, meaning is in the words we use. Myth number 4, we have a natural ability to communicate. And number 5, communication is reversible. Why are these myths? I'm going to pick on Glenn. Glenn, why is that a myth? Are you reading the books?
Yeah, I am.
Tell me why. What are these myths? What do we mean by these myths?
Well, I know because it's a myth. These are myths because words are definitely not. They can cure, but they can't cure all things that people have. Then
The book gives us an example. Check this out. The book gives us an example. It says, I'm going to go to my textbook right here. Occasionally I'll read it. It says, our neighbor is a realtor. She created a flyer for distribution in a neighborhood and asked me to read it and tell her what I thought about it. She had obviously spent a great deal of time on the project. When I looked it over, I told her that I thought that the message would not reach what she indicated was her intended audience. She became quite agitated and said that I was the only one who had anything negative to say. So basically, it goes further to say, I had taken her message literally when she wanted affirmation that she'd done a good job. How might I have avoided angering this person? So it talks about being the cure-all. So what does that mean? When you read that, or when I read that to you, what does that mean?
What it means is that he was the person was trying to make the person feel better of how she wanted her his honest opinion.
Someone else want to take a crack at that? I'm picking on you now. What do you think about that? Odelay? Did I say that right? Yeah. What did you think? I'm sorry?
Lola is fine.
Lola is okay, fine. Tell me what you felt about what he said. Do you think that he was spot on with what he interpreted as far as communication as a cure-all? Do you think that he made a good point with that?
Yes, because the way I see it, communication is it's something that you learn as you grow up, the way you're supposed to communicate with people, and the proper way you're supposed to communicate with people. And it's a cure-all because it's a way to avoid conflict in any way possible.
Well, okay, the text says this: communication can help to eliminate or reduce problems, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not a panacea. Communicating itself does not make the difference. The message that is communicated does. What does that mean?
I mean, just because you're talking to the person, doesn't mean that you don't have problems. But the way the words that are said are being received and perceived is what makes the difference. The words that are said is what helps you to avoid conflict in any way possible.
Morgan, what do you think about that?
I think that, of course, talking, it can help fix some things. It's not a cure-all, because I could say something that you made as a negative comment, or I could just be trying to be helpful. Just like in the text phrase where, they said she took it literally, that they really wanted her honest opinion, when sometimes they think they can create more issues when we think we're fixing the problem. So I don't think that it's a cure-all. It can definitely help get to a solution, but if the person you're speaking to takes it out of context, then it's not a cure-all because it's creating more problems.
Very good. Very good. I like that. The other thing it says that quantity means quality. Again, going back to the notion, have you ever received multiple texts from a friend within seconds? Perhaps the initial text autocorrected a word your friend did not intend to say, and as a result, your friend fired a text to correct the error, and then a series of others to apologize, and so on in the conversation. So one carefully composed text message would have been more effective than a series of short texts. Do you agree or disagree with that? Those of you who use a lot of text messages.
Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. An example is the book talks about quality versus quantity. And basically, the more quantity you have, then that's going to increase the quality. Do you think that that is true or false? Meaning, if you go ahead and inundate someone with a lot of messages, does that necessarily help to clear the message up or clear up what you're saying? Does it add more focus, more clarity? Or does, let's say, being concise the first time is your best bet? Okay, I'm going to get a button that says crickets. Do you think quantity and quality are hand in hand with communication?
A lot of words in the sentence, and if it's not presented correctly, and it's still
You're coming in a little garbled, Morgan. Try again. You're coming in a little bit garbled. Say it again. You're coming in a little garbled. Morgan, can you hear me? You came in a little. Okay, you're coming in a little bit garbled. I'm going to go ahead and try to move on from it, but I think I understand what you were saying. In a nutshell, no, quantity does not affect the quality. In fact, Think about it like this. If you have a load of messages on your phone, or if someone tries to interpret things over and over for you over the course of time, you're going to get flooded. It's better to make sure that you are accurate and mean what you say the first time, as opposed to trying to go back and fix things. You will flood people out. The other thing to talk about is that the meanings are in the words. I'm going to go ahead and leave those for the time being. I don't want to come back to that. I actually want to move on to the other part of this. Let's summarize what we have here. If we go into the last part of this, it talks about the notion of communication. How do we define it? And also, we talk about identifying, defining communication. It's also important that we look at the communication process. How do we communicate? Sender, receiver, i.e., this whole dynamic. I'm sending messages, but are you able to hear me? I think that's a fair question. Can you guys understand or even hear me? I think part of that comes in the context of, again, we're looking at the medium being Wi-Fi, telephony, the internet. Some of us may not have the best internet connection. Some of us may be coming to us from the computer. We saw another student coming to us from a car, or coming to us from the car in their phone, or either way. Coming from a car in their, coming to us in their car on their phone. So having said that, we have to go back and think about, again, even how that message is going to be received. There's this thing we have called noise. When you think about noise, can you really understand people when there's a lot of noise around? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can also add some clarity. Well, that didn't work. Okay, now that worked. All right. What I did was I actually muted your microphones for the time being. It's not as I'm doing that so that you guys can hear me clearly and that everyone else will not have any feedback coming through. But when you want to speak, go ahead and take the mic off mute and then go ahead and chime in. Is that okay? You got a thumbs up on that? That makes sense? All right, good. So the text talks to us about a few questions. Discussion they have in there, I think on page 35. Can you guys turn to page 35 for me in the textbook? Do you have your text? Turn to page 35 for me. The question, one of the questions they ask basically is this. Why is communication regarded as difficult and complex? Another question that comes up is, whom do you identify as an effective communicator? Who would you say is able to get their message across, and why? Another question I think is, what is the role of communication in our life? Why do we need to communicate? Why do we study communications? And how does that play in the context of a speech class? Because again, if you're making a presentation, you're making a speech, the idea here is that you are able to get a message across to your audience effectively. In so many audiences too. As a mass comm person, one of the things we talk about is broadcast communications. So as we talk about broadcast communications, the audience basically is the general public. The job of the reporter is to convey information that is, quote, newsworthy. Well, as they do that, they have to have a series of tools that allow them to be credible. We'll talk more about that in the next chapter. Excuse me. It's like cold. Let's go into chapter 2, and it talks about, in a nutshell, connecting perception and communication. What do we mean by perception? What is perception versus reality? Someone chime in. What is perception? Yes. What is perception?
Perception is how someone takes things, how they see things from their point of view. If there were to be an accident, the way that you perceive it is not the same way I perceive it. We may see two different things. Not that you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa, but it's just the way a person gets things from their point of view.
Very good. Very good. Give me an example of perception versus reality. Anybody? Okay, let me give you an example. Perception versus reality. Many times people think, for some strange reason, and I'm probably making a big generalization when I say this, but we think about the idea of, this professor doesn't like me. They don't like me, therefore I'm failing their class because they don't like me. It's personal. What's the perception versus the reality? What are the facts? What are the facts, and how do those facts play into the reality?
The facts would be, yes, you're failing their class, but it wouldn't necessarily mean it's because they do not like you. Maybe you've missed so many classes, you could have missed so many assignments.
Okay.
So
Assignment.
one of the facts is failing, but that doesn't mean that that's why you're failing, is because the teacher does not like you.
Very good. Exactly what I'm thinking about. Very good. We have to separate the facts from what really is taking place from what you may feel. And oftentimes, that also plays a big part in regards to how we communicate. What we perceive as being real versus what our anxieties are, what we may be internalizing. Usually when students have approached me and they're talking about, oh, we have a bad, you're failing me because you don't like me. No, the reality is that this is the syllabus, and you're failing because you did not turn in assignments, or you're failing because you didn't have good test performance. Those are the facts. Now, how do you take those facts and operate from, again, the idea of reality? We also have to think about the notion of, as we talk about facts and reality, how those same facts play into credibility. Because when you have no credibility, then it undermines your ability as a speaker. It undermines who you are and what you're trying to convey to your audience. And again, not necessarily just as a speaker, but even in the communicative process. For example, how do you know that I am knowledgeable about what I am talking about? How do you know that I'm qualified, if you will, to teach this course? Or how do you know I'm qualified to teach a course at Central and MassCom?
The way we know is from the degrees that you have.
Elaborate.
As in, like, you could be any teacher that you want. You could talk about anything that you want, but you choose to talk about the effects of communication in a worldwide base. And the fact that you went to school, you got your degree in mass communication, and you came back to teach that to students is what shows that you are qualified to teach this class.
Okay, so again, we're looking at the evidence, the facts, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The person went to school. Person has been teaching this way. Person has taken the required courses. Person has a demonstrated track record. Evidence. Everything is key. Same thing. When you're dealing with, let's say, a conversation should be based in fact. Now, it's very difficult not to go ahead and have a conversation that is emotionally charged, especially when you're talking about topics that can be provocative. Very difficult. And as we do that, that's then when we come into the important piece called selection. The text talks about the notion of selection and organization. How do you go ahead and select various pieces of material? The text says, selection occurs when we mentally sort out one thing from another based upon our previous experiences. Selection is based on the three types: selective exposure, selective attention, and selective retention. So in essence, we talk about this too in another concept called our own experiences we bring to the table. Those experiences, in essence, can also have some degree of bias or place some idea in regards to how we place value on information. Selective exposure, they say, the deliberate choices that we make to experience or to avoid an experience particular stimuli is referred to as selective exposure. For example, when we choose to attend to one thing over another, we are using selective exposure, taking in the sights, the sounds, the smells, and so forth, paying attention to our own experiences, what we've had to deal with. For example, we all have heard the common sense expression, only way you're going to know that fire burns is to be burned by, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So having said that, if we're dealing with the idea of fire, you've already experienced that, so you know I don't want to be burned by that again, so I'm going to avoid it at all costs. Natural experience. Selective exposure, what you've been introduced to. Selective attention. Focusing on a specific message while ignoring or downplaying some other stimuli is called selective attention. For example, when we talk about noise and filtering out processes, filtering out bits and pieces of information, let's say that you have a lot of background noise, but you're trying to focus on this conversation. That is a clear-cut example of, again, attention, how you are directing your attention. And we do that as an audience, okay? Now we go into the notion of retention. We choose to remember what is important to us. So it's all, again, about how we, as the listener, play a vital role in what we choose to record, what we choose to understand, and what we choose to basically give salience to. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, think about this in the context of, again, regular conversation. How does this apply to you, let's say, within just how you have relationships with your peers, your professionals, and even those, let's say, in your family? How does that work? Anyone, please.
In terms of, oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
in terms of like selective, you can say, for example, you know, everybody heard of the term, you have selective memory. You can choose what you take seriously and what you ignore. You may not want to say someone's telling you a harsh truth. You may not want to hear that, or actually, take that into consideration. So you will only remember the parts that were maybe comedic out of the conversation, or the parts that weren't really pertaining to you. And I know I've done it where, me and, say, my mom, we talk about something serious, and I don't really want to hear it. So I'll take the conversation, the parts that she's serious on, I can't really tell you what she said, but the parts that are pertaining to me, I will repeat it back to her, word for word.
Okay, very good.
So, kind of like doing things selectively, because you may not always want to hear or want to know what someone is telling you, or whatever you're reading. If it's pertaining to you, it's a harsh truth, and that may be something you just have to block out.
Okay. Give me an example. Someone else, give me an example of when you may have chosen to be extremely selective about what you took in.
Like criticism. When people are criticizing you, you may not want to always hear it, so you kind of tune it out.
Is that Jasmine? Who was that speaking a second ago?
Me, Jasmine.
Why can't I see you?
Oh, my cam isn't on right now.
Okay, so we're going to deal with the voice of Jasmine today. Okay, thank you, Jasmine. That's good. So, yes, we have those times when we really are selective about, oh, I don't want to hear the criticism because I want to make sure that I just hear the positive information, right? And that's okay. That's very normal. It's all part of who we are, because for some of us, criticism is a learned thing to accept. Again, when you start thinking about how you will be making your presentations to people, all of this plays into a large part of what we talk about with audience. Why is the audience, you think, so important? Why are we actually doing this kind of in a diverse manner? We're focusing really on audience and listening as opposed to the speaker. Tell me why you think that's important.
think it's important because you have to learn. You have to learn how to listen to take in information, not so much as to respond to what someone is saying.
Give me an example of that.
For example, when you are, say, in an argument with, like, maybe a relative or a spouse, you're listening. Well, some people listen to just continue the argument, not to take in the information, you know, not to consider what's being said, but just to try to get their point across. So you're not really listening, you're not taking in the message, you're just listening to respond, not really, you know, consider what they're saying and applying it to yourself or your everyday life.
Okay. Do you think that gender, race, class, all of those play a variable or play a role in you being able to reach your audience?
Yes.
Yes.
Tell me how and why.
Especially with culture. A lot of Muslim and Islamic cultures, they don't listen to the women. Like, the women's voices isn't as much as the men. They won't pay attention. So even if they're speaking something very intelligent and meaningful, it won't reach their audience because of their gender.
Okay. So how do we compensate? How can we compensate for those perceptual biases or for those things that we can't really control? Can we really control the audience that's in the room? Can we really control, you know, what our audience makeup is going to look like or our demography?
No.
Can control it.
Someone says
Not
you can
really.
control.
If you're trying to reach the masses, you don't know who you're speaking to, especially over lots of social media. Like, people try to reach other people through YouTube, and they have messages and they're trying to get things out, but they don't know exactly who their audience is. Just whoever happens to come across the video, whoever happens to listen, so they can't control the response.
Does anyone have a counter opinion on that? How can you control the audience's response? Or how can you engage the audience, particularly when you are dealing with that level of bias? Is it possible?
It is possible to control the audience that receives your messages, because just like on YouTube, whenever you put a video up, you can set an age restriction limit up onto who it is that gets to view the videos that you put up. Where in other times, anybody of any age could come across it and take it in different ways than the way you want it to be taken.
Do you agree or disagree with that, Morgan? What do you think?
I agree with what she said as far as being able to limit what you post on YouTube. But in terms of what Jasmine said and trying to reach a mass audience, you know, everyone's not going to agree with your comments or with your statements. What you have to do. So, you know, you can't really control. I feel you can't really pick and choose who you send the message to. I think that you just deliver a message in the best way that you can and hope that you reach someone else.
Okay. Chastity just joined us. Chastity, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Doing well. Thank you for joining us. It's amazing. I can see how many people finally show up. So I want to go back to this conversation because I think it's important. As a speaker, or even as a member of the audience, is it possible that you can persuade your audience or get audience to buy into who you are, albeit, let's say, there could be some stereotyping taking place, or there could be some level of bias? I mean, we've seen this happen with politics.
Well, I do believe that you can persuade anyone on certain subjects as long as it's well informed.
Elaborate on that. Give me an example.
Such as, I guess, maybe what I want to do, my goals in life, pretty much. Like, I feel really strongly about nutrition. Like, I go to the gym 3 days out the week, maybe 4 if I possibly can get there. Well, I'm recently picking up Muay Thai, starting well, actually, this coming up Tuesday. I diet pretty well. I'm just really into it. Something that I really like to do.
Okay. Tie that back into what we're talking about, because I think I kind of got lost there.
Okay. Well, I guess what you're saying, I'm trying to persuade you on like what I like to do. Isn't that what you're asking? Correct? I'm sorry. Like, this is my first video. I don't usually do video chat, so.
It's okay. We're all brand new to this. We're new to this like Brutus. So the main thing is that we're talking right now about how is it possible to deal with biases? Is it possible to deal with audience biases and still be able to maintain or at least have that connectivity, especially when the audience, you can't control the audience when you walk into a room?
Well, I think it is possible to deal with it. I think it's maybe a
So give me an example of how would you deal with it?
Well, I mean, I think you just have to take it as what it is. I don't really think there's anything you can do about it because everyone has their own opinion on what you do or what you wear or what you're saying.
Okay. Glenn, what do you think about that? What do you think about it, Glenn?
No.
Glenn?
Yes, I was saying it's like politics, how they sway you. It's like how kind of like how the presidents stay be coming up with like debates on different things of how they persuade you to make them vote for you. Some say might say like some might say like they want to lower uh taxes and some wants to raise them to and because I think basically the one presidents are trying to raise them are like trying to get like the rich white people to follow them, and the ones that want to lower it's like the middle lower class that stuff. That's what I think.
Okay. Let me give you an example. We all remember last presidential election, there was a very controversial term. The controversial term was made by presidential candidate Mitt Romney during one of the debates. The comment was, I believe, binders of women. How do you feel about that statement and binders of women and how that statement may have played into the audience? Do you think that was something that alienated the audience based on gender? Do you think it played into the media, into the frame or the media frame, if you will, the war on women? How do you think that comment, in the context of a presidential election, worked for him or worked against him? Understand the question? I'll repeat it again.
I was wondering who you were asking.
That was a general question. The comment in regards to Mitt Romney and his comment that he made, binders of women. How do you feel that played for him or against him in the presidential election in 2012?
I think that in either way, I'm not sure how to put forward against him, but it put in perspective for the female voters what his comments and his actions.
Okay. Chassie, what do you think?
Well, anytime you mention another gender, usually, it plays against in a way. Matter of fact, I worked that election, So for at the precinct during the poll time. But when you usually mention someone, just like if you mention something about a man, like can't think of an example right now, but usually it plays against him in a situation where I believe it will lower his vote. Just like if somebody with the gay rights thing, if someone is for it, then usually they would get the vote of, the gay people compared to, losing the vote. But you can also lose the votes of someone else because of it.
Okay. Talk to me about this other thing we have, media. How does media play into perception and reality? Talk about media and what the power of media is.
Can you repeat that?
Well, talk to me about media. Well, how does media operate as a powerful agent in regards to the construction of reality, the construction of one's perception of reality? How does the media play into that? The paper talks about that on page 52.
The media starts growing and it plays into it.
Who is speaking?
I was.
Jasmine?
No.
Okay, whoever was speaking, continue to speak.
I think I'm muted.
That plays into everyday life. Everybody posts on Facebook, everybody it's different for everybody, but they accept it. So therefore, the acceptance of everything that is said in media is different.
Okay. Someone else pick up. Someone else take it to the next level. Morgan?
I think that the media, they have their own biases. So they can play, I feel like they can play on words or topics to reach either one side or the other. They can make something, like you may see something on Fox News that tells one side of a story, and then look at CNN, and they're telling you facts or telling you things about a topic that happened that you never heard. I think a lot of media, and I could be completely wrong, but I think that they only tell what's appealing to them in terms of what they believe in and what side of the fence they're on.
Okay. Text gives us a very good example. Thank you for that. Text gives us an example. I'm going to go ahead and go to it. If you have your book, let's go to page 52, and they actually talk about Herman Cain. Who is Herman Cain? Anybody remember who Herman Cain was or who he is? The guinea pigs are up. Herman Cain. They talked about Herman Cain. Herman Cain, the past CEO of Godfather's Pizza, now retired, was, he was actually a presidential election candidate, blah, 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 blah. He was accused of sexual harassment by several women, and one whom recently indicated that she had a 13-year affair with him. In addition to these claims, which immediately became public, Cain did a videotaped interview with the editorial board of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, in which he was asked to assess President Obama's policies towards Libya. Cain became flustered and struggled over 5 minutes with awkward pauses and halting efforts to address the issue, which immediately raised doubts about his command of foreign policy. Within moments after the interview, his inability to respond to the question went viral, as well as the major news outlets. Both of these events, the sexual harassment charges and his inability to respond to the interviewer's questions, instantly changed how people perceived him. Thus, he dropped significantly in the polls. Cain tried to counter both of these events by denying he had harassed anyone or cheated on his wife, and he stated he had difficulty answering the interviewer's questions because he was tired. Now, Media. When you think about media, what exactly does that do? How does that have an impact upon who we are as an audience and how we take how we take this in as an audience? Can that be a powerful agent in regards to our own perceptions as an audience?
Yes, it can have an effect on the way we see things and how we perceive things. Because just like that example, the single minute it took for him to be embarrassed on public TV or for me to get out the whole world view in a matter of minutes because word travels fast in the media and every social website that is given out there.
Very good. Very good. So, again, going back to Chapter 2, what are the takeaways from Chapter 2? What do you believe are the takeaways from Chapter 2 primarily?
Could you repeat that?
What are our takeaways from Chapter 2? What do we take away from Chapter 2? And I know we're really going over this stuff quickly, but I want to get your takeaways from that because they're all going to make sense as we begin to do our other assignments.
From Chapter 2, to away the difference of perception and selection. When we such as selective hearing or the perception that people have that they hear.
Okay, did everyone understand that? Did you all understand that? Say it one more time for us.
I said that from Chapter 2, we can take away perception and, as it said, selective hearing because we learned that the way we view things and the way things are said can be completely different to what is meant by the messenger, to what we as the receiver hear because we have different views than the person who is talking to us.
Mm-hmm. Good. Very good. Very good. Okay, so folks, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and temporarily pause it, end it for the evening. I'm going to tell you why. Because I want you all to, I'll get back on the screen. I want you all, believe it or not, to take more information, and I want you to continue to have the conversations on your YouTube channels. I want to go ahead and watch and listen to those conversations, particularly about Chapter 3. Now, the reason I want to go ahead and do that is because it'll give me some time, and also you guys some time, to take a look at your About Me pages and your speeches of introduction. One of the things that Chapter 3 talks to us about is communicating self and communication, connecting the self and communication. That's what it meant to say. How you perceive yourself and how others perceive you. Again, one of the key points about this exercise with the About Me page. How do you want people to perceive you, and how do you perceive yourself? So what I want you all to do is to go back, reread Chapter 3 again, and then I want you to take some extra time to have some extended conversation through your YouTube channels about what you've read, and then take time, if you can, to go back to look at some of your classmates' About Me pages. Do you feel that they are presenting themselves in the best light? Do you feel that they know how they are presenting themselves and how they wish people to receive them? For example, go back to my page, compare my page, if you will, to my presence and how I present myself here in this forum. Do the same thing with your pages. And again, we want you to make those connections in regards to self and how you view yourself and how others are viewing you. Are you sending out a good message or a good emissary of yourself using social media? So I want you to think about that as we have this conversation again. Also, I'm going to go ahead and take a brief moment to double check on things regarding our next assignment. When is our next assignment due? I believe it's due in about 10 days, if I'm not mistaken. Does anyone have a copy of the syllabus? I'll go ahead and pull one up if you don't.
In 2 days.
The next assignment is due in 2 days?
Well, sorry, I'm in my time difference. It's in 3 days.
3 days. So what is that assignment?
The chapters 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
Video discussions.
Okay. go ahead and do that, but again, go back and revisit Chapter 3 specifically. What I'm going to also do is I want to go ahead and take a look at our next speech assignment because that's going to be coming up rather quickly. And I want to make sure that we are all on point with that. So if you'll allow me a moment, I'm going to pull this up. We will see how this all comes out. Oops. Did you guys learn anything from our conversation this evening? Have you learned anything from our conversation this evening so far?
Just different views.
Sounds no. Sounds like a no. Hold on, let's see if we can pull this up. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is comes up anytime soon. You're coming to us from another time zone. You said, where are you at? You're coming to us from where specifically?
I'm in Japan. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here.
Hey, what time is it in the morning? 3?
9:08 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Monday morning, yeah.
Okay, so our next major speech assignment is coming up on the 20th of July, which means we pretty much have around a few days to get that thing prepped up and ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you, if you haven't already, I want you to go ahead and provide you with a copy of a model of how that speech is supposed to look, and we'll talk more about that probably on Tuesday or actually on Thursday night, but I want to give you some heads up on that. So make sure that you are preparing yourself for a demonstration of a physical fitness activity, because that's something that we want to see as your demonstration speech. Not that that's going to be too complicated, but I want to make sure that you can give us something with that. I will provide some models for you with that. So put that on your horizon. Get the demonstrations. Get your discussion board posted to me soon. I will give you feedback within the next couple of days on the speeches that you've turned in so far. All right, so do we have any other questions about anything right now? Because like I said, I'm looking right now, and the main speech that we have that's coming up now will be your demonstration speech, and that will be in 10 days.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any questions from Japan?
No.
Okay. Chastity, Jasmine, questions for you guys?
No.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to end the conversation tonight. But what we'll do is then basically I'll go ahead and come back with some information regarding the speech, and I'll try to also summarize this as well. For those of you who could not make our hangout this evening, remember we can watch this or download this on demand. I will have the URL for you in the content section of Blackboard. If you have any comments or questions for me, feel free to shoot me an email. I will get back with you in 48 hours, and we will hopefully see you guys definitely by Thursday of this week for our next hangout session. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, have a good week. I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Thanks for chiming in. Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.